this computer. That would be a good idea. Well, good afternoon. It is officially good afternoon. And I hope this is recording. I'm just going to double check. It is, and I'm going to pause it. Well, good afternoon. I've got with me two amazing young men. Well, everyone's younger than me now, who are going to do a heroic thing for Fishing for Schools and the Countryside Alliance Foundation. And without further ado, Pete, Olli, welcome. I'd like you to just say a few brief words about yourselves, why you're getting yourself into this ridiculous scheme that you've got planned. And yeah, over to you both.
Great. Well, I'm obviously Peter. And I suppose this all started a couple of years ago for me. I was meant to run the London Marathon. My housemate at the time, Hattie Roger-Smith, worked for the Countryside Alliance and introduced me to the Fishing for Schools charity. It was also at a time when I was getting back into fishing, having sort of not done it for 10 or 15 years. A sort of rugby injury later, and I missed the London Marathon. And then the following year, COVID swooped in, and and obviously I couldn't do that London Marathon either. So it was over lockdown in the Easter, while I was on the west coast of Scotland with my in-laws, that I mapped out a route on the west coast involving a section on the mainland and then 4 different islands, which I thought sounded a bit more interesting than waiting another year for the London Marathon. So that's how I've got roped into this, and yeah, looking forward to it. Almost a month to go.
Olli, you seem as though you've been dragged into this rather.
Well, only because I didn't like the idea of Pete having to do all that running up and down those hills and on the west coast by himself. But I mean, essentially, I like Pete, had my London Marathon plan scuppered, albeit a year later. I was meant to do it last year in April, and then obviously postponed until October, and then obviously it wasn't going to happen this April. So I do fortunately still have my London Marathon place for this year, so I'll be doing that October 2021. However, in the meantime, Pete mentioned that he was putting this route together, and gave me the opportunity to come and join him, which I jumped at, because albeit it's a beautiful part of the world, plus an opportunity to do two events for this, the Countryside Alliance Foundation, the Fishing for Schools. I'm an avid fisherman, fished my whole life, really sort of recognise the importance of the kind of rural sports in education, especially for those that haven't had the opportunities to experience and probably don't know anything about it, or have ever sort of been on a river. So really good charity, and if I can combine that with between 3 and 5 hours of charging around some of the beautiful scenery of the west coast, and it seems like a good opportunity.
Well, that's an appropriate point to jump in and say, can you say a little bit more about the course, because it is unusual. It's not your normal marathon course, is it?
Yeah, the course is very unusual, and I suppose it's just spending so much time on the west coast during lockdown, which I was very fortunate to do. I just fell in love with the place more and more, visiting all the islands that we're going to do, and knowing all the people who own the land that we're going to be running through. It just made it so appropriate. We've got all the kit to do it. My in-laws are supplying the boats and the people to ferry us across, and yeah, so that's why we chose the course. And yeah, I can't wait to do it now. If we get a day like today, it'll be stunning, but probably in true West Coast fashion, we'll have a sideways rain, possibly even snow, who knows.
Well, I was hoping you'd do an Ironman. I thought you were going to be swimming between the islands. I thought
I'd need armbands, I think.
and many more boats, I think, as well. And I mean, I hope we don't. In London right now, it's absolutely pouring with rain. So praying for our, those West Coast blue skies.
Well, let's hope. But I mean, how tempting! You sneakily show me some pictures of the area you're running through, so I've got the heads up on this, and I have to say, as an avid fly fisher, the whole idea of going through that area is just too tantalizing. I mean, are you not going to be just a little bit tempted to go in and just have a little fish every now and again?
We will be running past some really great fishing spots, and going back to last summer, we did a lot of fishing on Jura, Scarborough, and Ling, and we actually helped. We caught some fish on Scarborough and brought them back to Ling to stock some other ponds. So I know how much fun it is. No, I I think I'll be too tired to cast. Till I might have other thoughts.
Well, I don't know, because we've got our sort of family haunt was fishing on the River Orr every year, which we still do, and I think I will be driving past the exact lay-by that we stop in on our way down to the start line. So if EasyJet allow me to throw some rods on, then that would be great. But somehow I think that that EasyJet flight might sort of slightly.
One of the things in running I've learned is everyone is absolutely infatuated with PBs. And have you got any predicted time that you're going to be doing this in? I mean, everybody wants a sub-4 marathon, or in my case, a sub-day marathon. But yeah, so what are you anticipating on this? Because it's an unusual challenge.
I think if it was a straight, a nice time start to a finish, continuous running with marshals or your, refreshment stations and stuff, we probably both got an idea of what we would like to get. And I certainly know for when I do London later in the year, I'd love to try and get sub 3:30, but that might be a little bit of a pipe dream. But I think with this, with the fact that, with the terrain and the getting between the islands, I don't know. I think it's going to be more of a completion exercise than necessarily a time, because I don't think a time would mean a huge amount to anybody that wasn't there to kind of experience it with us,
Yeah. So having mapped out the route, and we've got 1, 2, 3 crossings by boat, which we have to factor in, along with obviously some stops for photo taking and blogging. I'd like to do it under 5 hours, and I think taking into account the crossings and the terrain, the elevation, and all these things, I think it's achievable. We'll have to put in a few more hours of training, I think, before that. But
well, I have to say that your colleague, Katie Weeks, who's going to be joining us in October, she is pounding her area into pulp. I mean, she's training so hard, bless her. So you've got a hard act to follow with that young lady. You really have. Force of nature. Now, one final thing. Is there going to be a live feed going on here? Will people be able to follow you as you do this? I mean, that's the most important thing, I think. If people can get involved in what you're doing, I think they'll understand just how difficult this task is.
Well, we've been in touch with your organisation, and they're being super helpful with regards to getting it out to the channels that we'll get out there. So Instagram, Facebook, and everything. And we will live feed this as we do it on Sunday, the 25th of April. And I should mention the estates that we're running through, which include Ard Maddy on the mainland, Arden Capel on the Isle of Seal, Ling Estates on Ling and Scarborough, and then finishing at Ard Lusser on Jura, which is owned by a lovely guy called Andrew Fletcher. And all these areas have lovely trout ponds, and we'll live stream this as we go. Send through photos, send through live footage, and try and just build the profile of the area and the charity and everything we're running for. So yeah, we'll try and get out there.
Oh, it's wonderful. Look, I cannot thank you enough. As a director of fishing schools, it's been a joy. Are they going to be joining you? I heard the patch a little tiny.
No, that's
but anyway, Olli, Pete, thank you so much for what you're doing. It's amazing. And I'll see you when you've finished, I guess. So thank you both very, very much indeed.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Charles.
Looking forward